Okay, so the importance of context. So let's say in the scenario you decide, okay, well it makes sense to try to save the five people, and I'm gonna turn the train onto the track with one worker. You know, killing one person but saving five. Okay, I mean in a vacuum, I think most people would agree that that's a logical decision. It makes sense. But let's say, for instance, that one person that you're going to turn the train on is the President of the United States, Barack Obama. In that case, are you really going to say that the five lives that you're saving are going to be more valuable than the President of the United States? I mean, maybe depending on your politics, maybe you think you should definitely turn the train to run over the President. I hope that's not the case, but um, it's possible, right? So, but anyway, my point is that the context, the people that are on the train actually count. Likewise, let's say, for instance, that you decide, I can't turn the train. If I turn the train, I feel like I'm going to be taking an action to to taking an active role to murder this person, and I think it's better to just let the train run its course. Well, what if those five people that are going to die if you let the train run its course happen to be your friends or your family? Will that make a difference in turning the train? Most likely, it will. So that's the importance of context, obviously. And I think it was Ian was pointing out several other things about maybe the fat guy, his health could play an issue. Looking at the patients on the table, whatever. There are numerous factors that are going to go into making these particular decisions. So the first thing to say is the importance of context. The second thing is where's our threshold, right? So some people just say, look, I'm not going to be responsible for killing that one person. I'm just going to let the train run its track and kill five people. But there has to be a threshold, right? So you say, okay, well, I'm not willing to kill one to save five. Well, what if the choice you have is to save 100 lives and just kill one? Do you turn the train then? What if it's 1,000? What if it's 10,000? It's one of those things where it's kind of like that old saying, everybody has a price in some ways. I mean, there probably is going to be a number where you're going to say, okay, I just can't justify letting this amount of people die so I cannot kill one person, basically. So numbers, once again, that's another thing that plays into the context. Another question that somebody brought up that I thought was really good, because it's a position that a lot of philosophers take these days. It's a type of moral psychology. Is do we make these decisions rationally at all? We're having a discussion in philosophy class. We can sit back, we can think about it, But when you're actually in the situation, you're in the heat of the moment, your emotions are going to take over, and you're just going to react. Well, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. For some people may be cooler under pressure. I don't know, and some people may just go straight on emotion, and that's fine. That's a very popular position these days. There's a psychologist who, yes, somebody pointed out, used to be a professor at UVA, so don't hold that against him. His name's Jonathan Haidt, and he argues that this whole thing about us being rational beings is just a bunch of baloney, especially in these moral situations. We're through evolution, we're hardwired to act in particular ways, and when presented with certain stimuli, that's the way that we're going to act. Well, I'm not exactly sure that that's true. But even if that is true, even if it is the case that our emotions take over, I think it's important that we have to question what are the roots of our emotion. So let's do a thought experiment. Let's say we're in a movie theater or something like that, and somebody whips out a cell phone there in front of you, and they just start, they're chatting it up, they're texting, doing that, maybe you guys are doing that too. I hope not, but anyway, somebody does that. if I'm sitting there, or probably one of you guys, I'm going to be pissed off about it. I mean, shut your cell phone. I want to watch the movie. But it's pretty obvious, right, that emotion that I'm going to feel that's going to want to propel me to act in a certain way, telling this person to put away their cell phone, is not something that's hardwired in my brain from birth. That emotion is something that I have learned over time. Somebody has told me, you see these, when you're watching the movie, the train track is coming at you. Please turn off your cell phones. It's beating into our head. Our friend, people say, you should turn off your cell phone. People are telling you that all the time. You're sitting in class, your cell phone goes off, you get really embarrassed about it. So we have these constant messages that are put into our head, and they're probably put in our head through rational processes, right? So somebody says, you should really turn off your cell phone. We get embarrassed, and then we go and think, well, yeah, this person's probably right. I mean, I'm going to interrupt the class. I'm going to distract people. I really shouldn't be doing that in class. So yeah, that's right. So you determine that emotion that you're going to feel is actually justified through rational means. And I would make the same argument about certain ethical behaviors. Yeah, you may feel a certain emotion that's going to propel you to act in a certain way, but I would argue that probably that emotion has been justified somewhere down the line by rational processes that you have. It's not just your primitive neural synapses are firing, telling you to act in a particular way. That may be the case in some situations, but I also think it's quite possible that there are rational processes behind our emotions as well. Okay, murder is murder. So I think it's important that we distinguish between different kinds of taking a part in somebody dying. So the usual definition for murder is killing somebody in a premeditated way that's usually unjustified. That's murder. So there is a distinction between murder and killing someone. So if somebody breaks into your house, they have your wife or husband at gunpoint, and you have a gun, and they're going to kill your husband or your wife, they're going to kill you, and you kill that person in self-defense, and you can definitely prove that this person had the intent to kill you, then I don't think we want to call that murder. That's not the legal definition or the social definition of murder. That's simply killing somebody in self-defense. Now, if we want to say a statement like murder is murder, maybe we should start with saying something like killing is killing. And I think obviously when we say killing is killing, we can see that there are some problems with that statement, because obviously killing is not just killing. And maybe in the scenario we're looking at the trolley situation, killing somebody, when you push them off of a trolley, may not be the same as killing somebody by turning a trolley track to save the lives of 5 people, even though in the case of the pushing the guy off, you're still saving 5 people. There seems to be a type of difference there. And the real question is not can murder be justified, but the question is can killing ever be justified? And that's something we'll talk about in Just War Theory for those of you who are interested in doing that particular subsection of the course. Okay, another important point that I thought some people brought up was the role of the particular person in the situation. So some people have argued that as the conductor of the trolley, you have a particular responsibility that goes along with your job. And that particular responsibility may be to prevent the loss of life. So if that is the case, then there's a certain professional obligation that goes along with being a conductor. Likewise, as a doctor, even though some people have said they have problems with the Hippocratic Oath, usually it's taken to be an ethical responsibility of a doctor is to the principle of first do no harm, not harming the patient. So in the case of the surgeon, there would appear to be a professional ethical responsibility not to kill the one healthy person who is otherwise going to be fine to save the lives of five other people. And that's an important point. And that goes back to the context of the situation mattering. But what I really want to get at, and what the purpose of this course is to get at, is do we have responsibilities or obligations just by the virtue of us being human beings, right? Are there ethical responsibilities that we have as human beings? For instance, if we see somebody that's drowning, do we have an ethical responsibility to save that person? And why? Why do we? So that's the kind of questions that I want to get to with that. Okay, and then I'm going to, so there are some answers, if you call them answers. People have problems with them. There are some suggestions that philosophers have come up with through the years to try to explain these situations where, like we have the trolley case, right, where it seems like we have the same consequences. You know, if we turn the trolley to kill the one, we're saving 5 lives. If we push the fat guy off of the overpass, we're saving 5 lives. But it seems, so the consequences are the same, but it seems like there's something different going on there. And one of the first ways that people have tried to justify or justify this distinction between the two, even though the consequences are the same, is something that's called the doctrine of double effect. And this was something that was originally posited by St. Thomas Aquinas, very famous philosopher and theologian. So the doctrine of double effect basically says that there are certain scenarios where the consequences are the same, but the acts themselves can have different moral statuses. One can be morally acceptable, one's going to be morally reproachable. And the reason for that is that there are certain clauses or certain conditions that an act has to satisfy under this doctrine for it to be morally permissible. And I'm going to run through some of these conditions for you. Okay, so the first condition of the doctrine of double effect is that the nature of the act must be good or at least morally neutral. So this first clause is going to point to a discrepancy between the two. So in the first case, the act itself is to pull a lever. That's the moral act, pull a lever. Now you can't say that pulling a lever is good, but you can certainly say that pulling a lever is at least morally neutral, the act in and of itself. Whereas when you're pushing the fat guy off the overpass, you cannot say that the act is either good or neutral, because the act in and of itself of pushing a man to his death is morally impermissible, morally reprehensible. So that's the first clause. It's called the nature of the act clause. The second clause is called the intentionality clause, which means that the agent intends the good effect to happen even if they're doing the bad thing, right? So when I pull the lever, I'm not like gleefully thinking I'm going to like run out and just crush this one person who's on the track. I don't have that intention. My intention is the good intention of saving the 5 workers. In the same situation, you know, when you're pushing the fat guy off, your intentions probably are still good to save that. But obviously, if your intentions were you just want to see this guy plunge to his death, then that's not going to fly. And then the last clause of the doctrine of double effect is that the good consequences have to outweigh the bad act. So in this case of where you pull the lever, the consequences of saving 5 person actually do outweigh the consequences of the bad act. Now, whether you buy that or not, we can leave that up for discussion. If you guys have some points that you want to make about the doctrine of double effect, that's fine. Go ahead and post them in the discussion for today. I'm going to post this Kwame Appiah reading. I want you guys to read that for today. I want you to watch this video, and then that'll be good. And I want you to think about, and you know, I know you guys were probably pretty young when September the 11th happened. It may be worth going back to watch the video. I actually went back and watched it tonight. And it's really, you know, it's really disturbing. It's just to see the violence of that act is really, it really speaks to the strength of the emotions that you can feel and how emotions can sometimes lead you to do faulty things. So, you know, I'm not saying you have to, but it may be worth going back to take a look at the World Trade Center bombings that happened on September the 11th. Anyway, we're doing pretty well in football. We're 2-0. I'm hoping that in the class, if we keep going, maybe we'll go undefeated. If I keep talking about the football season, maybe we'll go undefeated and things will go well. Once again, I'm really proud of you guys for the discussion. Please keep that up in the forums. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the forums.